4-year contract, $14 million, an AAV of 3.5, coming off a Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers. I thought he was awesome in the Cup final. As you guys know, his firsthand there for 4 of the 7 games in that series. I thought he really picked up steam in the second half of the season. This is a guy who was bought out, signs a team-friendly deal, betting on himself, and then now gets the contract. But I talk about the familiarity. Knows Shane Doan from his time in AZ, and he knows Brad Treliving from his time there. So I'm very curious about this one. There's a lot of moving parts to the Ekman-Larsson edition.
Yeah, it'll be interesting where he slots in, how he fits in. But again, to complement Tanev and to be kind of on the same page, here's a guy with, 1,000 games under his belt. He's a world junior guy. He's a high first-round pick guy. He's been through a couple different organizations, just won a Stanley Cup. Like, you're paying for that experience, and a guy that's kind of always been looked at as kind of a stud, a guy that's been expected to do things, a guy that's been put in pressure situations. He's kind of been around the block, and I think that's going to serve him well in Toronto. He's going to get there and say, yeah, I kind of know what Toronto is all about. I know what to expect. He's going to go there. He's going to feel it. He's going to understand it, but it's not going to be this wild thing that's sort of the ordinary for him that maybe he gets, buggered up by or gets a little bit shaky and isn't quite ready for it. It's not going to be that story. This guy's, been to a few rodeos, and I like that about these acquisitions, that you kind of know what you're getting, and I'm excited to get them in there. And as far as who's playing with who and what units and stuff like that, I don't know. We know who these guys are and what they can do, and we know what we have, so we'll see what works. But the point is, we're not thin as hell going, who the hell is going to stand up for us? We're going, which guy's going to be the guy to take the reins, because there's some different options now.
I think on OEL, it's unrealistic to expect he's going to be the guy who was on Arizona like 10 years ago, but I think somewhere in between I would be happy with. Certainly the guy I saw in the Stanley Cup final. That was the most physical I've seen OEL play in his career, by the way. He was known as a softer type defenseman, specifically dating back to his time with the Coyotes. And I think if you can bring that element to the game, especially, I think to start a bottom, pairing with potentially Timothy Liljegren, who we'll get to a bit later on. But I think there's also the potential that Ekman-Larsson could maybe push Morgan Rielly for PP1 QB duties. If you do recall, the Florida Panthers, granted, their power play struggled mightily in the second half of the postseason, including the Cup final. They scored 1 power play goal, still won the Stanley Cup, but OEL was running the first power play unit. So I think Mark Savard obviously is going to run the power play. He's going to have a couple different looks, one including Rielly and one including Oliver Ekman-Larsson. At least he's an option, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's like you say, there's more options. And when you get into trouble like we did in the playoffs, where we're running at an abysmal percentage of power play, you need to shake things up. You need to have other options. You need to try different stuff. But when you're sitting there and you only kind of got one option and it's not going, there's nothing you can do but beat your head against the wall. And they're not going to have to do that anymore. So, whatever combinations it is and who it is, I could care less. But the point is, they're probably going to figure that out, and they're probably going to have a few different weapons in their arsenal to try to, negate any problems or going down a big slump. If they start to slide, you can mix it up easy and have different, viable options, which they haven't really had to a degree back there. And again, takes the pressure off Morgan Rielly. And I think that with that pressure off, you could see him really play loose, really play free, really play confidently, and step up even more than he could have if he's still expected to be the number one guy.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.